Hi all, this is just supposed to be maybe a quick follow-up to the video I did the other day about Amberlynn's versions of Rarity going missing. I realized that I wasn't entirely satisfied with just relying on my notes to tell the story, that I think it was worthwhile to actually go through Amber's videos and cut the clips that I was referring to and just let you all just watch that all play out. Um, and so, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you those videos. I've got like some little graphics that I've made of sort of my version of the timeline from each of those videos. But I will just show those to you, record that, and then let you know, let you kind of make what you will of that, and then at the end, I will show the full timeline, and I will maybe talk through my own thoughts and commentary, so that if y'all just want to see the videos, that's fine, and not listen to me ramble about them. But I do think it's valuable to preserve those actual little clips and stories, especially as apparently it turns out that Amber has gone through and privated a bunch of this stuff. So I cut these clips last night, and today more than half of the stuff that I used for this is now privated and gone. And I think we can all have our guesses as to why she's done that. It's been a long time since she's done something like that, so it seems like it's a harbinger of something possibly big. But anyway, let's get into it. I will go ahead and just show you the clips.
But yes, my cat Rarity is missing, and I have done nothing but cry. It happened 2 nights ago, and I put full blame on myself because there's a yard, and that's where I let the dogs out to go to the bathroom, and it's through like a glass door, and I wasn't thinking, and I left the glass door open just like, I don't know, like this much. And I'm telling you, when I noticed, it was like 20 minutes later, but it literally just takes a second.
Rarity went missing very early in the morning on the 17th.
She just like followed me everywhere, literally everywhere. No matter what room I was in, no matter what I was doing, she was there. So usually I take the dogs out, and this curtain is usually open. So I just close it like that. But when it happened, it was 5 in the morning. Yes. And this is closed. And when I closed this door, I thought I closed the door. And this is how far I left it open. Like, a lot of people were confused saying that I leave the door open for the dogs to go outside. No, it happened after the dogs came back inside. And the only reason why I noticed is because the spot you guys always see me sitting in is literally right here. This is the dining room, by the way. So after I let the dogs back in, I was just doing things around the house. It was like 20 minutes later. I sat down in the chair, and I felt like a super cold breeze, and I was like, that's weird. And then I put 2 and 2 together. I came over here, because like I said, these were closed. I opened these, I like peeked around the corner, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then that's when I knew. It was the 17th at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m.
So the argument was so fucking bad that I think it was like 5 a.m. or something. I don't even know. She ended up leaving her home through the kitchen door, which is the sliding glass door. She left. And my favorite part of this whole thing is she likes to say that you guys see me. I'm over 500 pounds. I walk very slow. Like, I'm a slow mover, okay? So, anyways, we get in a really f***ing bad argument. She leaves through the glass door, leaves the door open. I did not notice because I did not go near the door. I did not go near the door. I was sitting at the kitchen table waiting for her to come home. And that's when I noticed the cold breeze. I noticed the gold ring. Emily left the fucking door open. And she booked it so fast she didn't even close the door. I felt the cold breeze. Okay. In my brain, I was thinking, like it was just a lot. It was just a lot. In my brain, I was thinking, there's no way Rarity got out. We're good. It's like one of them things. Like Tommy's house is huge. Cats went everywhere. I was thinking Rarity didn't even notice. But it was the next day when I was like, something really just does not seem right. I haven't seen Rarity all day.
So our huge fucking argument happened wee in the morning. Wee in the morning. I mean, I'm telling you, it was like 5 a.m., 4 a.m., like around that time, I would say. And Emily has a massive house. And a lot of the cats, like her cat Daniel, Princess, Wasabi, Rarity, they all like to be in the basement. That's where they went to the bathroom. They would eat down there. They would play down there. They would just hang out down there. So normal pattern of the day is a lot of the time, like you didn't see a cat. You didn't see a cat because they were all hanging out doing their damn thing at the basement. That's just what they did. I wouldn't really see Rarity throughout the day. It would be later at night. She would pop out, follow me around, eat food from the kitchen, get some water from the kitchen, whatever it may be. And I noticed that normally the time when I would see her, I didn't see her. I was like, that's weird. Like throughout the day, I'm thinking, okay, like she's probably in the basement. It was just normal everyday life. Nothing seemed off. And then it was like around the time where like, the cats start to come out. They're like coming up to the living room or the bedroom, starting to just venture out a little bit more. I was like, it's weird. I've seen most of the cats today, but I haven't seen Rarity. And that's when I was like, what the heck? So I went down to the basement and I didn't see her. And I was like, this is confusing. I'm calling her name. I'm going to floor number 1, floor number 2, floor number 3, floor number 4. And I'm like, why isn't she coming out? I mean, if I say Rarity one time, she comes to me. Like that, she was glued to my hip. But since she had such free roam of such a huge house, she took her favorite spot and she loved to be there. That was the basement. So when I noticed, okay, she's not coming to me, like I'm shaking treats, she's not coming to me, something is not right. That is when I messaged Emily because the pattern was then broke. That's when I was like, what is going on?
We got in a huge fight in the middle of the night and Emily left in the middle of the night for 20 minutes. And she left the door open. Then she came home for 40 and then left again to go to work. That's when I noticed that I couldn't find Rarity. Shut the up. Thank you.
All right, so now that you've heard, all Amber's different versions, I'll walk through them and maybe give a few of my thoughts. This is sort of the bigger simplified timeline that I've put together. And you can see that these stories all have different elements, right? Like they're not consistent across the board. And so, on one level, we have the first story, which Amber has now said it was a lie that she told to protect Emily, right? But the first story, simple, and the 2 videos that she tells, it's relatively consistent. Amber lets the dogs out, brings them back in, leaves the glass door open when she brings them back in. 20 minutes later, she feels the cold breeze, notices the door is open, and then she just knows that Rarity is gone. The main thing about this that would lead you to question it, okay, we always question everything that Amber tells us because Amber is a confessed liar, and a confessed inveterate liar. But, if you just heard this story straight up told to you by someone else, you'd be like, okay, fine, whatever. The one thing that we question now because of what we know, that we would obviously question now because of what we know, is that Emily, I think in one of Rachel's videos, said that Amber actually never let the dogs out. I think she maybe said this in the Mr. Snowflake video. It could be one or the other. But Amber never let the dogs out, so that part seems bogus. I think it's quite believable that Amber never let the dogs out. But whatever. Version 1, actually, the 2 times she tells the bits of it that she tells in these first two videos actually kind of are internally consistent. And then we have, Emily goes to Mr. Snowflake, and we have Amber, after Mr. Snowflake makes the community post kind of announcing this, Amber comes out and does a bunch of live streams to sort of preempt this. And Amber tells us that previous version was a lie. Actually, it's Emily's fault that Rarity got out. And here's the story. Except in videos that are in lives that are one after the other, right? So one of these lives was on August 2nd. One of them was on August 3rd. And even among those 2 days, these stories, there is some theoretical way in which they could possibly be meshed together, in which they could possibly be made to work together, but they don't naturally and obviously work together, right? So in the first version, she tells us Amber and Emily get in a fight. Emily leaves and leaves the glass door open. Amber does not notice that the door is open at the time, anywhere around the time, because she does not go near because she says, I did not go near the door. I did not notice. So first of all, there's this idea of like having this door open in November in Wisconsin. I have some family in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is very cold in the winter. I have spent a Thanksgiving in Wisconsin. The lake in Wisconsin was frozen because it was that cold. So it seems weird that you would, have a door open in that kind of weather in your house and not notice. But that's what Amber says. Amber says that the point at which she did notice was the point at which she was waiting at the table for Emily to get home. That is when she felt the cold breeze. We know that Emily has a 12-hour shift this day, right? So Emily leaves sometime in the morning. According to later evidence, it's sometime in the morning, right? So Amber is not going to be waiting at the table for Emily to come home before sometime in the evening, just given that Emily's has a 12-hour shift. So Amber does not notice that the door is open until the evening, so like 12 hours later. Now, maybe this is plausible because, as we know, Amber goes to sleep super, super late or really early in the morning and then wakes up in the afternoon. And like, I guess if you were asleep upstairs or something like that, then maybe you truly wouldn't notice the door being open for 12 hours, but it seems a little unlikely, especially as Amber has admitted that when she is in a fight with someone, she tends to follow them around. And I think it is in this version of, I think it's in this version of the story that Amber is saying, well, Emily likes to say that and this is something that Rachel pointed out, and Rachel pointed out maybe she's saying Emily likes to say that I chase her. It's unclear. We don't know how she's finished that sentence, but she basically goes on to say, I'm 500 pounds. I move really slowly. I'm a slow mover. And it's unclear why she would say that and she says that directly after I didn't notice because I didn't go near the door. And you wouldn't say that unless you were trying to make some sort of point that'd be contributing to this story. And it seems to me like she's saying that to say that this is a reason she didn't notice that the door was open, because she didn't follow behind Emily. She was too slow to follow behind Emily. She gave up on following behind Emily, something like that. But I don't really care how slow you are. You may not be able to get to the door before she gets her shoes on and gets out the door because you walk slowly. But that doesn't mean you never get to the door. I mean, maybe it's true that Amber was so slow that she gave up getting to the door. We do have that video of her in Wisconsin, quote unquote, running, or at least moving somewhat quickly. So clearly she can move quickly if she wants to. Anyway, that's that version of that story. Basically the door's open all day. She doesn't notice until she feels the cold breeze in the evening when she's waiting for Emily to get home. Then there's the version from the very next day, the live, that is literally the very next day after this. And in that version, Amber and Emily get in a fight, and Amber seems very, very focused on saying that, first of all, weirdly enough, I looked through this one to find references to door, cold, breeze. To be fair, I was only searching the transcript. Transcripts are not a perfect representation of what is in the video. Maybe there is something in there. But weirdly enough, in this one, she doesn't actually literally say that the door was left open by Emily. She says that they got in a fight. And then I think we're just supposed to assume that because of what she had said the previous day. But really, she spends most of the story saying, well, it was like this in the house. The cats all stayed in the basement. I never saw them at most of the day. I wouldn't see the cats most of the day. They would only come out in the evening. And she seems to be trying to marry together these two ideas, both that basically, you know, Rarity was her shadow, and this is something she says in one of the earlier videos, but Rarity followed her everywhere. Rarity was always everywhere that she was. Rarity was constantly glued to her hip, etc., etc. She's trying to marry that idea with the idea that she wouldn't notice that Rarity was gone all day. And this actually reminds me, in the previous story, in what I'm calling version 2A, she says that it wasn't until the next day that she realized that Rarity was missing. That's a really confusing detail. I'm not sure what she says that. That would put her noticing that Rarity was gone on the 18th, which seems odd. That's the 18th is also the date of the very first video she made. So I don't know why. I don't know what she means by that. I think I don't know. I think it's I don't think that Amber is being truthful here, and I think that may be an artifact of that, because she's both not being truthful and not very good at telling a coherent story. Anyway, to return to version 2B, she spends all this time trying to marry together the two ideas that both Rarity was always glued to her hip, and also she wouldn't see Rarity all day. And she does this weird, confusing thing where she's like, well, the cats are in the basement all day, but then in the evening they come up, and then Rarity's glued to my hip for the rest of the day, I guess. So basically she says, she notices later in the day that she hasn't seen Rarity, and then she begins searching for her, and she describes in detail. She goes to all the different floors. She gets some treats and tries to tempt her with those. She calls Rarity's name, which usually works to get Rarity to come to her. And then she texts Emily about Rarity, which we know from the screenshots that Mr. Snowflake and Rachel have was at 10 p.m. It's really strange that in this version, it has a completely different emphasis and almost completely different content from the version from the literal previous day. She doesn't talk about the door being open in any detail, if at all. Again, like I said, I searched a bunch of words in the transcript and it just wasn't mentioned that I could find. To be fair, I was lazy. This was quite a long live, as I recall, so whatever, it could still be in there. And she spends all this time trying to basically respond to, I think, probably what were some criticisms that she had probably read, i.e., why didn't you look for her? Did you look for her? How did you not notice when she is supposedly always around you? So she spends all this time doing that and loses in a way the emphasis on the door being open, and that's just not really discussed in any length. The cold breeze is not making an appearance in this version. So again, theoretically, you could make these two versions work together, which is why I've labeled them 2A and 2B instead of making them completely separate versions. Theoretically, you could have both of these kind of work together and oh, well, I just told different parts of the story in different places, but it doesn't feel strongly internally consistent to me. So, which I think is weird, especially because they are literally told one day after another. Then we get version 3, which is a version that Amber tells in the series of lives that she does after Rachel's video comes out. Which, again, is sort of another chapter in her fights with Emily. And in this version, she also seems to be trying to solve some of the problems of the previous versions, which is just something, that she seems to do in general. So in this version, she says that she and Emily got into a fight early in the morning. Emily leaves the house, leaves the back door open for 20 minutes, comes back inside, gets ready for work, and leaves again. So in total, that she says that takes about an hour, right? Emily leaves for 20 minutes, comes back inside for 40 minutes to get ready for work, leaves her work. It is at the point that Emily leaves her work that she notices that she can't find Rarity. I feel like this also raises... So at one level, okay, this solves the problem of why would you not notice a door being open in frigid winter in Wisconsin for 12 full hours by compressing that time back down to like 20 minutes, right? But Amber doesn't say that she notices it when the door is open when Emily leaves, which is presumably, the way she's telling the story is not completely clear, but presumably it's the 20-minute period that the door is open for, right? She doesn't say that she noticed the door was open then. I don't know. Wouldn't she have closed it? Like, if she did, I don't know. How would she know that the door was left open for that 20 minutes unless she was there? That part doesn't make sense. And then also, again, she immediately notices that she can't find Rarity at the same time that Emily leaves for work, which, I mean, sure, but then why did you in August tell this version of the story where you didn't notice that the door was open, and or you didn't notice that you hadn't seen Rarity until evening? Anyway, this is just to say, obviously, we are all very aware of the fact that Amber lies. Amber is a confessed liar. And people have pointed out many instances of her lying in the past. It is not surprising that Amber is lying about something like this. I mean, sort of rare, the losing of Rarity, however it happened, is probably one of the things that she is most criticized for, at least within the past, past year or so. It is a big thing that people in the community fixate on. Obviously, it's important for her to get herself kind of off the hook for this, because it is quite serious, right, to lose a pet in this way. But I think even though, we can kind of assume that Amber is probably not being truthful about this incident for a lot of different reasons, I do still think it's helpful to go back and look at precisely what she said about this incident in general, all the different ways she described it, and to line them up in this way and visually see how clearly inconsistent they are. So anyway, I hope that was helpful to someone. Even if it wasn't helpful to someone, it was helpful to me to do all this, get this off my chest, play around with Canva, show off how completely unprofessional I am at YouTube in general. Just have a grand old time. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and hopefully I will get back to some regularly scheduled programming soon. Bye.